Sometimes other people don't feel quite real to us, and sometimes we don't feel entirely real to ourselves. If you've ever had that feeling, you're not alone. Sigmund Freud thought he understood why. Philosophers call this feeling solipsism, the unsettling sense that we're all trapped inside our own consciousness, cut off from everyone else. It can be exhausting and isolating, but it's also very common in our atomistic world, where we often move through life like separate particles. Freud may have offered us an unexpected way out. In a sense, he split the atom of the self. I'm speaking metaphorically. I don't think Freud literally said this, but his work shows us that the I is not a single unified thing. It's made up of many parts. We often say things like, I'm not the type of person who does that, but is that really true? I might say I prefer chocolate, but sometimes I prefer vanilla. We often hold contradictory emotions at the same time. Happiness and sadness, confidence and doubt. Sometimes we even hold opposing opinions about the same issue. The self, Freud suggested, is not singular, it's layered. I was reminded of this when someone shared with me a column in FT Weekend called The Layered Realities of Ourselves by Enuma Okoro. She's a wonderful columnist who analyzes art and draws out some of these really thoughtful life lessons. I've read a number of her pieces and I highly recommend them. In this column, she writes, all too often, we see unique individuals with a kind of group vision and say, in one way or another, they are just a fill-in-the-blank nationality, ethnicity, gender, race, profession. And then we struggle to appreciate their complexity and their humanity. So when we make space for the complexity within ourselves, we begin to see that same complexity within others. People stop being paper puppet characters to us, they become real. Okoro points out that we do not just do this with individuals, but with entire countries. We flatten them too. She says that we say things like, quote, that's the country where they don't know how to govern themselves. That's the country where it's not safe to be. Those are the people who do ... But countries, like people, are complex and contradictory. Words like good and bad are far too simple to describe them. Nobel laureate Toni Morrison warned against giving into what she calls the, quote, comic book version of ourselves. She criticized a language that relies on what she describes as, quote, medieval rhetoric, a language that turns fear into certainty and flattens people and nations into caricatures. She reminds us, quote, how important and necessary it is for us to become and remain humans. When we let go of those comic book stories, something changes. Other people feel more real to us, the world begins to feel more real to us, and the isolating feeling of solipsism begins to fade. Freud's insight was simple but powerful. The self is not one thing, it's many things. And once we recognize the many voices within ourselves, it becomes easier to recognize the same complexity in others. Freud himself was able to connect with people with extraordinary depth, perhaps because he understood just how layered a human being is. And when we begin to see people that way, something shifts. We stop feeling like abstractions. We start to become humans.